Alright, looks like got everything set up here. Probably not live yet. If I am, apologize. I'm just trying to string this out until until the live stream starts, and I guess it should be starting now. So thanks everybody for watching. Let me just tweet this out or get this link in the in Slack chat, and we can all kind of hang out. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to go through the slate today. I think it should be a good one, and I'm looking forward to breaking this down with you guys. So let me just jump in Slack here. Alright, so thank you guys in advance for the questions here. And today I was thinking we could go through some game logs, go through the new teams that are playing that haven't played yet, and then build some lineups. So what I'm going to do is bring up the Detroit game log from last night here. This website Popcorn Machine is a good one to look at the game logs. Roto Grinders and NBA Wowie have similar tools, so kind of pick whichever one you like best there if you want to dive deep into these games. So yesterday, I mean, that was a crazy game with Detroit and Indiana. Pretty rough matchup for Detroit, but they really overachieved and put up huge fantasy performances. So that was pretty rad. And a lot of us had them in DFS. They were pretty much the chalk. So that was pretty interesting. Luke Kennard, especially, Markieff Morris, Andre Drummond. These guys were all owning a ton. And we saw Andre Drummond go out and have a huge performance. Derrick Rose performed. Luke Kennard was good. Markieff Morris got injured. So my takeaway from this is if Markieff Morris plays today, I really like him tonight because, as we see, 6 minutes in the first quarter, 10 minutes in the second quarter, so that's 16 minutes in the first half. That puts him on pace for 30 minutes. He only ended up playing 22 because of the injury. There would have been some potential he would not close out the game, but the guy backing him up at power forward is Thon Maker, so I think that his role is pretty secure if he plays tonight. Mike Cardell said, "Hi Alex, hey, what's up?" And Legalize, yo, how's it going, guys? All right. So my takeaways here. I think Andre Drummond, again, super underpriced because he's only 8K on DraftKings. He's more of a 10K player with Blake out. Him playing 41 minutes out of the first round of a back-to-back isn't encouraging, but from what I've observed, not a huge difference. The one guy I think it would affect more than anyone is D Rose. He's someone that's older, a little bit more injured throughout his career. And I think people are going to overreact to last night's game. Reggie Jackson had an off game. He got 5 points, only, let's see what his line is. 1 rebound, 5 assists, so he played 20 minutes. This guy averaged 28 minutes last year. Ish Smith was replaced by Derrick Rose, maybe a little bit of an upgrade for the Pistons. But I still think that Reggie Jackson will probably average in the high 20s. So I think he could go under the radar tonight for sure. Derrick Rose may be a little bit overowned based on his performance last night. And then let me check who we got. There's one other team I think played already. It was the Clippers. So that was also a really interesting game. I'll kind of go through this. So what was really interesting in this game was Lou Williams played 36 minutes. Harrell played 38 minutes. Very high minute totals compared to last year's averages, where Lou Williams kind of averaged in the high 20s as well as Harrell. I think Harrell was at about 27. So I think that if people are going off the game logs, they're going to overvalue Harrell and Williams. A more realistic outcome is that they will have around 30 minutes or the high 20s. and maybe Jermichael Green gets some more run. It looks like Zubac didn't really play much. He averaged in the high teens for the Clippers last year, so he could get some more run. He's kind of a sneaky sleeper. And then Beverly, he played 9.5, so 18 minutes in the first half, and then he only played about 13 in the second half. So that's clearly someone that could get more playing time if he's having a really good game. So I think that's worth taking into consideration. Wanted to know if you have projections for Yahoo on DFS. Yes. If you go to the projections tab, you should be able to access the Yahoo projections. Just went to Girl in the Go. Nice. So that place is pretty good. Let me check Slack. Can't decide between Harden and Curry on FD. Let me check the salaries real quick. I remember Harden being pretty expensive. Harden is 10K or 11.4K on FD, and Curry is 10.3. I actually like Harden there. I'll explain why once we start talking about that game. Those games. So what I'm going to do here at this point is I'm going to run some crunches, and I have my projections up here. I'm going through them all day, trying to make sure that keeping the errors to a minimum. I do have some strong stances based on the research I've been doing on a couple players. So what we're seeing here, Markieff Morris, he's standing out to me based on my projections. If I have him in for 28 minutes, that's what I come up with. So really good play if he's playing. I'll have to dive into his per minute on the Pistons because, I mean, not clear what his role will be at this point. And then we got a couple of Hawks. The Hawks starting lineup's going to be really relevant tonight. We have 4 starters so far. We have Trae Young, John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, and Alex Len. The 5th starter, I think, will be a really nice play in DFS. I'm hoping it's Bembry. If it is Bembry, I think he makes a really nice play. And then Giannis, always a great play. I think that playing Houston, maybe he sees a little bit more than the 31 minutes he averaged last year. Reggie Jackson, I mentioned how Reggie's back was acting up Wednesday and he had to limp off the floor. Well, that is certainly a factor that I'll have to go back and evaluate. Do you think it's possible Golden State goes small? That means more minutes for Harrell as opposed to Zubac. So that's a great question. I think that Looney starting is a big question mark because he's coming off of an injury where he didn't play the whole preseason, and the minutes are really difficult to project here. But he is one of their better players if healthy. So he's backed up by Marquise Chris, he's like a small ball center too. And then Draymond Green could see some minutes at the center. Spellman also on the Warriors now. The problem is I feel like they're really weak at the wings right now because Alec Burks is out. Obviously no Clay, no KD. And Glenn Robinson, Eric Paschal, Jordan Poole. I mean, a couple of rookies in the rotation there. So I think that if I had to guess, they probably won't run Draymond Green at center a ton just because then they'll have to find someone else to play power forward, and that isn't that appealing. Alright, so I got kind of a cash build here. One thing I'm going to do, I'm going to set a little baseline by creating my optimal lineup here. Doing DraftKings today. So optimal is 296, and let me make sure I got the ownership projections in here. 242 ownership. So those are some nice baselines to compare lineups to. Can you talk about FanDuel construction after? I can make some FanDuel lineups, sure. So what I will do at this point, kind of go through and build a lineup using lineup builder for all the single entry players, kind of go through my thoughts here. So one thing I noticed, I have D'Angelo Russell projected a lot lower than other projections. So I always check kind of the props, other sites, see how I'm stacking up to the field. I think Russell's going to take a big downturn here. It makes sense that if he's playing with Curry and Draymond Green, he won't have the ball in his hands as much. In addition, that was borne out over the preseason where he averaged low 20s in assist percentage, where last year he was at 39%. So that's definitely someone where I haven't projected to be good value, but I think he's going to be way more popular than I have him evaluated as a player tonight. At the same time, Curry and Draymond Green and Russell are all going to be competing for these assists for the shots. I think Curry is a good play, but not as good as when I heard Clay and KD were out for the year. Draymond Green, I'm a little lower on both than other sites, I think. So I'm not crazy about the Warriors tonight. Glenn Robinson is an interesting value piece. I'll start with my Pistons here because I like some of these guys. Reggie Jackson is a GPP play I've identified. Markieff Morris, Andre Drummond. I think Drummond is, he's projected for 56% ownership on DraftKings, and that makes sense to me based on the price. 8,300 is just way too low. Is Pat Bev defense enough to go under the field on Curry? That's a good question. He's out there for defense exclusively. So, I think I might go under on Curry just because I like some other options better. But I'm not as worried about the individual matchup because NBA they switch so much that it's hard to say he's going to be guarded by Beverly. He's someone that runs a ton off the ball too. So kind of one guy I think is a good play if I'm playing this game a lot is John Collins, 7,300. It's a good price for him. Giannis and Harden. Harden in 9,700 is a misprice, I think. I think he'll take a downturn with Westbrook as his running mate compared to Paul, but it won't make enough of a difference. So I think he's nice at that price. And then small forward, let's go value here. Wesley Matthews, not a great GPP player, but he's so cheap. 3,500 for high 20s minutes probably. That's pretty good. All right, Glenn Robinson. He might be a good value small forward because Golden State's just really weak at wing right now, and I think he could get a lot of minutes. Let's see. Luke Kennard is a little bit less chalky than I thought, 15% ownership, so that's a good option. Bruce Brown, I'm a little bit less convinced that he's actually going to be as good as he was last night, so wait and see on him for me. I'll just slot in. I have Wesley Matthews projected a little bit higher than Glenn Robinson. I'll throw him in there. And then 5,300. Maybe I'll go another value guy. Beverly is someone identified may play more than we saw last night or 2 nights ago. So I kind of like him. I will throw in. All right, 56.50 remaining. So I gotta go for some mid-range guys. Eric Gordon at 4,300, pretty reasonable. Jabari Parker, that's a big question mark. I think he is really interesting. It's just so unclear what his role is going to be, and he's productive on a per minute basis, and he's not super popular. Let me see if I'm getting thoughts on Russell / Lou Williams. Westbrook, I think Westbrook is someone I'm down on this year. I mean, he's still priced pretty well at 8,900, but I'm expecting his rebounding to take a big hit, not playing next to Steven Adams anymore. The Thunder schemed it up so that Westbrook would get the uncontested rebounds, but with Capella being a good rebounder, I'm not sure that'll be the case this year. In addition, it'll be hard for him to get as many assists. Chris Paul took a big hit to his assists when he played with Harden. So I think that 8,900 price tag is pretty reasonable. So I'm not loving anyone at this price. PJ Tucker, that's kind of interesting. Maybe I'll just go with Glenn Robinson. I think that maybe he'll go under the radar. So we'll have casual players. 8,100. Then I got, I can get anyone here, so that's pretty nice. Actually, it looks like there aren't really any options at this price. Maybe I'll put in Capella and switch out this 3,800. This is hand building lineups is always pretty tough. I think Cam Reddish. I mean, that's reasonable value. Anyway, it's telling me my contrarian line ranking is I'm in the bottom 10%. So this is apparently a very chalky lineup, which is a good reason why we can use Fantasy Cruncher now and optimize this process a little bit. So what I'll do, I'll put on a little bit of randomness. Oh, click the wrong button there. Okay, so I'll put on the randomness. I'm gonna build 500 lineups. I'll delete, the kind of method I come up with is delete the top 20% in ownership, then the bottom 50% in projection, and I'm left with some lineups that fall in the sweet spot. So I'll give this a second to crunch. I know you've answered this. If I'm meeting in multiple tournaments, you run the same 150 twice or 300. That is a tough question because the reason you run 300 would be to differentiate more, and that's good if you're trying to reduce risk. If you're trying to maximize your profit, maybe identifying the best 150 you can and running those in both tournaments could be good. But for most people, we're trying to maximize our chance of having a good night and maybe not trying to win it all outright. Probably build 300. All right, sort by ownership. So I got 248 is the top one. So I'm learning all these tricks of the trade here. If you select none, then I can select only lineups above this. Actually, this isn't that much lower in ownership than the top one, which is interesting. Thoughts on Harden and Westbrook fade? I think it's fine. I mean, there's so many studs on the slate. I mean, you got Giannis, you got Drummond, you got Curry. You can only play like a certain number of them in your lineup. I don't see any reason to outright fade any of those guys because they're all pretty decent plays. But in an individual lineup, it's certainly not mandatory to have Harden or Westbrook. Trying to leverage my exposure using likelihood to hit target score. I'm not sure there's how to compare players on DK. Is there a salary range you'd recommend? I think maybe I'd have to understand more about the process there. So if you go to my bust boom probability, that's a nice tool where you can compare the ownership and the chance of getting value plus 10, or conversely the chance of a bust and 1 minus the ownership. So that's one way I could recommend incorporating the target score. Alright, I'm going to delete the bottom half. Select those below. Delete arc dog. To use groups to keep her from pairing with certain teammates. Yes, I think that's important. Like, for example, I would really not like to have Montrezl Harrell and Zubac in the same lineup. I don't know if many people are going to play Zubac to begin with tonight, but that would be a significant hindrance to winning a tournament, because when one gets more minutes, the other gets less, and you need everything to play out perfectly for them both to get there. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start from ownership, lowest to highest, and see if there are any lineups I like. So this is where I'm going to refer to my initial baselines: 296 projection and 242 ownership. It looks like it's hard to actually build a lineup with low ownership tonight, so that is going to be really interesting. So I'm going to look for a lineup in maybe the 280s. This is one. Eric Pascal. Not super keen about that as a play. He said he played some center in practice. That's kind of cool. I don't know much about the guy, to be honest, but I mean, he's not going to be owned very much, so that balances. So that's an interesting lineup. Langston Galloway, I think, is someone that wasn't the hot hand yesterday, but could easily play himself into bigger minutes today. So that's someone I don't mind. And just scroll down until I get to line up with a higher projection here. So the reason behind having such a high amount of CP3 last night is because I really liked him. I think that Utah, not a great matchup, but I'm expecting Chris Paul to do better as far as assists and usage this year. So it made a nice play. I got burned pretty hard on Schroeder too, but he played the minutes, so I thought that was something that I felt good about, even though he underperformed. How come we have to upgrade to FC Pro to enter ownership? You don't have to. You can upload it. If you go to upload data, you can click this add remove column and upload the ownership. It's Harkless a good value tonight. I think he's a good one, but not a great one. He was kind of the hot hand in the last game, but I could easily see that not being true today. So if people are going to expect the rotation to be the same as last time, then I think there's a significant chance that won't happen. All right, here we go. Pascal will get time guarding Leonard. Hindulicious. I like that name there. I mean, he'll get time, but based on his preseason stats, let's see how I have him projected. 16% usage, not a great rebounder. I have him in for 21 minutes, so I think he's a good play, but nothing about that is really making me excited, except the fact that it's such a small slate. So let's take a look at this one. Reggie Jackson, someone I think will go on their own, so like that. Harden, kind of the chalk. Actually, this lineup, I'm fading Drummond, so that's something that could easily sink the lineup, but we gotta mix some fades of players that are popular, and it's either going to be Harden or Drummond probably tonight. Markieff Morris, he's in. I mean, I think that's a good play. And let me put this into the lineup builder and see what kind of grade we get. Jackson, Harden, Parker, Antetokounmpo. And we got Markieff Morris, Bledsoe. Oops. Matthews, Williams. So contrarian ranking 20 to 30%, value above 90%. I'm just not having much luck building contrarian lineups today, but at least this one isn't quite as chalky as the last. So I think based on what I'm seeing tonight, it might be very hard to build a really contrarian lineup. All the lineups I'm getting have pretty similar ownerships. Well, let me, this one looks good too. Uh, but yeah, it looks like my my projections are lining up pretty well with the ownership, so that is a situation where it's going to be a little bit harder to build a lineup that excels in both ownership and projection here. All right, and I will go through and build a FanDuel lineup here and kind of do the process again. Okay. Rajon Rondo remains uncertain for Friday. Oof. So, looks like I'm getting a lot of Parker here again. I think if he's popular, like that could be a fade. I mean, he's a well-known name, really, really cheap. I think people might just click him to complete their lineup. It'll depend a lot on unknown factors, whether he gets there or not. So, easy chance he doesn't. So, sort by ownership. And let me know if you guys have any other questions here. I'll make sure to answer them all. Highest ownership. Alright, apologize for the dead air here, still learning the game. Sorrel Lions by projection. Should Chris be one of the first in off the bench? I mean, it depends a lot on how healthy Looney is. I'm guessing by the fact that he's playing today that he is healthy enough. So I'm expecting him to see like in the 20s, because usually when he started last year he got about 25. So then I have Chris for about 16, kind of given the logic that maybe Draymond gets in the game. If the Warriors also run 3 center rotations a lot, so Spellman could get in the game as center. I feel like usage for Curry and Russell will be through the roof. It's hard to see him not smashing. I mean, there's only a certain number of points and assists the team will get, and if you divide it among the team, I don't see how Russell being in the lineup is that much different than having either like KD or Clay in the lineup. Probably more comparable to KD. So not as good a player as KD, but he does have usage that's comparable and assist percentage that's higher. Do you have a favorite value play tonight? It's tough because a lot of the value plays I'm so uncertain of. I would say Reggie Jackson, maybe, if he counts, because I think that people will be on Derrick Rose, and there's kind of an inverse correlation. So I'll sort by ownership. Didn't figure out the baseline here, but let me. So my lowest owned lineup actually. Oh, that's the highest owned. Oops. So I'm seeing that probably like somewhere in the high 290s is. Who else is going to score for Golden State? Both will have 28% usage. Yes, I agree with that. I think Draymond's usage will be up this year. I have him at 17% because that's about where he was before KD joined the team. But Glenn Robinson and Kevon Looney are very low usage. As off the bench, it looks like Jordan Poole might be a higher usage player as well as Chris. But I think that there will be plenty of shots for Curry and D'Angelo Russell. Thoughts on rookies as pivots? How much Jordan Poole would you take to make a contrarian line to balance the chalk? I think that's a good strategy because if I'm not feeling confident about putting this guy in my lineup, Jordan Poole, just because it's kind of uncertain, then I think you can just assume that most people will as well. And then you'll have a lineup that's pretty unique. So that could be nice. So like DraftKings, I'm having trouble kind of getting it really low in lineup here, but this one I got Bledsoe. I like him as kind of a sneakier play, but I think he was injured in the preseason too. Fractured the cartilage between two of his ribs. I'm gonna have to dock him a little bit. But let's see how these lineups are grading out here. Let me just put that one in because it's just another question mark, and that can be good for GPPs. Bledsoe, Jackson, Harden, Galway. Bledsoe, or Jackson, Galway, Bledsoe, Harden. Giannis Bembry, Tucker Pascal, and Capella. So we got, wow, I like this a lot. Contrarian ranking above 90%. I assume that is because we got Galway in there and he's really driving our ownership down. And also really high projection. So if Derrick Rose is having a rough night, Galloway comes in, I think that this lineup could potentially get there. In addition, we're fading some of the chalk like Drummond, who's 44% projected owned on FanDuel. So I think this lineup has a pretty good chance. All right, let me check if there are any other questions and then get out of here. Thoughts on Middleton? I think he's fine, but let me go into the numbers here. He looks like he might be a little bit less than average value, so I think that maybe that would be a good contrarian plug. Key offer guidance as to metrics to build exposures in Excel. Essentially, exposure should be some combination of projection, value, and the size of the slate. So if you come up with your own kind of formula, because it's inexact science, is personal preference here, using those three factors of value, projection, and slate size, they'll help you build an exposure scheme. Am I hearing a bird in the background? Man, I'm gonna have to look into that. And I think Curry's ceiling is way higher than this team compared to Westbrook. I think that both players have really high ceilings. I mean, these are some of the best fantasy performers in the league. Westbrook has more question marks, playing alongside Harden, but still a great player. Have lineups with Beverly and Shamet together. Is that playing with fire? No, because they're both in the starting unit, so if that starting unit is having a ton of success tonight, I think they might be out there together. Have you thought about getting my data tab to only get lineups with the max ownership and minimum points? Yes, that's a good idea. I could set some rules in Fantasy Cruncher to do that. So let's see, my data, usual ownership projections, and allow a max of 150. I want to see if I can get a decent lineup, turn off ownership, or turn off randomness, see how that turns out, just for experiment's sake. So my projection is pretty darn low there, so I don't love it. For NBA, I'm starting to think that maybe you stay with it, maybe 80% of max. Brick must just be me. Brian, what's up, dude? Alright. Trae Young low and contrarian against Reggie Jackson. How does he not go off? I mean, the reason why is because he's just priced way higher than he performed last year. So he's 8,600 on DraftKings, 9K on FanDuel, but he averaged in the high 30s, I believe. I can pull up Basketball Reference just for. So he averaged 35 points a game on DraftKings, and he's 8,600. So I mean, we're going off a lot of speculation that he'll be a lot better this year. and I might just wait and see until that materializes. All right, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in today. I think I'm off tomorrow. I'm going to be on the deeper dive instead, so I'll be back doing this stream on Monday. And good luck, everybody. Be sure to tune into the deeper dive in 30 minutes with Laffy and Adam, and then live before lock tonight with the man himself, Fast Eddie Fear. Hope it's a great slate.